On April 28, 2009, NASCAR writer and broadcaster David Poole passed away unexpectedly in his North Carolina home. SiriusXM NASCAR Radio paid tribute to its fallen comrade with special editions of The Morning Drive, and some of NASCAR's biggest names showed up to honor David. NASCAR Chairman and Chief Executive Officer Brian France.
David had his own opinions, and he would chase the facts as they were. And I always respected him for that. Matter of fact, he was the first media member in New York that I saw the one year of the banquet, and shared with him our thoughts on the chase to get his personal view on what he thought about it. You know, he meant a lot to people because he really understood the sport. He'll be very missed.
NASCAR legend Buddy Baker.
He has a passion for the sport just like I do, and he knows how to tell the story way better than I do. And through that, you know, when the opportunity to have somebody write a book that I had some short stories about, David asked me if I would let him do it, and I said, of course. And we sat down on my dock out here on Lake Norman, and it just really, really brought us much closer together. He was a people's writer, not, you know, what everybody else wanted to hear, or, you know, they might put me behind a concrete pillar where I can't see the racetrack if I say certain things. He was not that way. He told it the way he felt and the way he felt about the sport. If you didn't like it, so what?
NASCAR driver Jeff Burton.
You hear a lot of people say it, how he didn't mind asking the hard question. He didn't mind, but he didn't want to be the story. That's the thing, is that, you know, it's a fine line between someone in the media becoming the story, creating a story, or going out and digging for a story. You know, and those are big differences. And I always felt like David was trying to tell the fans the entire story, and I have a lot of respect for David for that.
Team owner Rick Hendrick.
I've admired David. He's been a good friend of mine for a long, long time, and he was one of the people that really stood up for Tim Richmond, and I always admired that, and talked about Tim, and actually did a book on Tim. I think the kind of questions that he would raise and the jabbing he would do back and forth with some of you guys and some of us and NASCAR was healthy to get things out on the table and talk about them, because, you know, fans would have questions, and everybody had a different opinion, and he'd take a shot at putting all those opinions on paper, and I thought that was a sign of a really strong writer.
Former NASCAR driver and ESPN ABC broadcaster Dale Jarrett.
That's what was great about David Poole. He never drove a race car, but he understood so much about the sport. Yeah, he never owned a team, but he understood that side of it so much. As far as I know, he didn't. I know that he had his radio show and talked many times about the sport there, but I don't know that he ever broadcast one. But he sat there and he seemed to understand the mechanics and the workings of all of that, and so it made him appreciate what people were going through and how you had to prepare and be ready for that. So he just seemed to guess the whole thing, and he was in a perfect position his entire career. He was right where he wanted to be, and he was right where we all needed him to be.
President of Joe Gibbs Racing, J.D. Gibbs.
What I loved about David is he was really gifted at what he did. You know, he was passionate about it. He cared about it. He cared about the sport. Now, we might not have always agreed with the articles he wrote. We might not have always seen things eye to eye. But at the end of the day, when you have the arguments, you disagree, or you talk to them, right from that, what you go to, what meant so much to me is you go right from that, and you talk about our families. You know, I went through the issue, with my son battling cancer, and then talking about his family, his Eli, the grandson, all that stuff. And so it was great to be able to put, again, kind of like family, you take all the stuff that you're talking about business-wise, you put it over here on the back burner, and you talk about what's most important. And I think what was clear when you talked to him, what was most important, it wasn't racing, it wasn't, traveling, it was his family. I think that really crosses all boundaries. I think you kind of felt that, and that's what I know hurt for his family and what they're going through. And But at the same time, just to know the fact that the way he cared about him, the way he thought about him, at least to me, I think that really was that really meant a lot.
NASCAR driver Jeff Gordon.
When you do things the way a guy like David did them, people are going to say a lot and are never going to forget him. So he's definitely going to be missed. This is one of those guys that the sport's never the same without him, and so there's just no way of replacing a guy like this or putting into words really what he meant to so many people.
NASCAR driver Kurt Busch.
The time I was in trouble with Jimmy Spencer, and I came into the media center at Bristol to explain my side of the story, and I was very agitated about the whole thing, and I told the media, sorry, make it quick. I only want 2-3 questions. And it was cute. He took over the forum after that. He said, listen, son, you're not going to tell us what has to happen here. We've been here a lot longer than you have. And it was a moment that I gained so much respect for a guy, because he was the one that ran the room when we would come in for media center time, whether it was after a race or before a race, you name it. When his hand went up and he wanted to ask a question, you listened and you wanted to give the best answer you could, because you knew you were talking to the top guy.
NASCAR driver Mark Martin.
I really admired, his commitment to the sport, and I love the sport, and I need people like David Poole to feed my desire for the sport, and he was very committed and a great guy. I've been fortunate to be around the sport a long time and experienced some devastating losses, and this is certainly one of them.
NASCAR president Mike Helton.
He had his own ideas and thoughts. Wasn't worried whether or not anybody agreed with him. He was going to be very clear about his own. He stirred a lot of debate. He caused a lot of people to respond, sometimes maybe even question. But he was what he was, and he was a very much a part of our sport, and at the very deep core of our sport, and he'll be sorely missed. I kind of relate him to an alarm clock. Sometimes you get up in the morning and you beat your alarm clock, so you turn it off and go on. So sometimes your alarm clock wakes you up and it's a nice, peaceful, okay, I'm ready to go type thing. Then sometimes you like to pick up your alarm clock and throw it out the door. and that's David. I mean, sometimes you could get ahead of him, sometimes it worked out, and then sometimes you had to turn around and walk away.
These were just a few of the people who took some time out to help us honor the life of David Poole.